Good evening from me, John Woodland, and welcome back to the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival on this July evening in 2026. It's been a glorious day of winter sunshine here in Stellenbosch, one of those days when just about anything seems possible. If you've joined us for the SICMF before, then you'll know that by day 4, something curious happens at this unique festival. The excitement of the opening night subsides, the novelty of arriving has worn off, but what remains is something rather more interesting, the special SICMF routine. Now that means waking up in Stellenbosch to the sound of somebody practicing Schubert down the corridor. It means rushing from a rehearsal of Brahms to a coaching session on contemporary South African music. It means sharing lunch with a clarinetist from Baltimore or a Russian cellist or a student from Limpopo. This festival starts to feel like a small temporary village built entirely around chamber music. And perhaps that is one of the reasons so many musicians return to this festival year after year, because after a few days, the SICMF stops feeling like an event and starts feeling like a community. And so welcome to day 4. Student ensembles have performed throughout the afternoon, a public violin masterclass has taken place, and preparations have intensified for the orchestral concerts that will conclude this year's festival later in the week. And tonight's 4th faculty concert takes us on a musical journey through memory, storytelling, and reflection. We begin with John Corigliano's Voyage, a deeply atmospheric work by one of America's most celebrated living composers, written as a meditation on travel, distance, and the passage of time. And we then arrive at one of the major events of this year's festival, the world premiere of A Tough Tale by South African composer Owen Dalton, continuing the SICMF's long and proud tradition of commissioning new works that engage with contemporary South African voices and experiences. And after the interval, we turn to one of the towering figures of chamber music repertoire, Johannes Brahms, whose clarinet quintet, heard this evening in a special arrangement for string ensemble, stands as one of the most profound and introspective works of his late period. In last night's faculty concert, we witnessed musicians breathing and playing together in repertoire spanning nearly 2 centuries. And so let's begin by returning to the very opening of last night's concert and to Gareth Wood's exhilarating Tientos y Danzas. A reminder that few musical forces can match the thrill of a brass and percussion ensemble firing on all cylinders. Now, one of the reasons the SICMF functions with such apparent ease is because of an enormous amount of work that takes place behind the scenes, work that most audience members and indeed many of the musicians never see. But flights are booked, accommodation arranged, schedules coordinated, crises quietly averted, and somehow, against all the odds, hundreds of musicians arrive in the right place at the right time with the right instrument and with the right music. And one of the people responsible for making all of that happen is my guest this evening, Teresa van der Merwe, whose role at the SICMF encompasses finance as well as faculty accommodation and travel coordination. Teresa, thank you for being here. I'm sure you're probably on call, waiting for your phone to start buzzing.
Yes. Well, actually, I realized that my portfolio this year, I'm very busy before the festival, and I will be very busy after the festival. But this is the first year where my hands are semi-empty, and it makes me very anxious. But you're correct. All of the artists have arrived, and every time I saw someone entering the building, I said, they made it.
And that's testament to your hard work and planning, and of course those around you as well.
Yes.
Were there any moments in the run-up to this festival where you thought we might not get there, or maybe there was a crisis where someone was held up?
Yes, always, especially the cellists. Or
is that
people...
because of their instruments?
Yes, it's quite difficult.
And that's because of the airlines.
The airlines.
Difficult.
But most airlines are accepting of cello players, or I should rather say the instrument itself, which takes up a whole seat.
Mm-hmm.
But then this year we had to use a specific airline, the only airline that was not okay with that. So that was quite a mission, but luckily I don't do it alone. We work with a travel agency, Nielsen Travel, as well.
Because there have been some quite hectic geopolitical developments over the past few months as well.
Yes.
Which, and we'll get to how this has affected you personally a little bit later.
Yes.
But in the run-up to that, or the festival, I mean, when all of that was unfolding, you must have had sleepless nights.
We did have sleepless nights. We knew that we would get the faculty members here, but we also knew that it would be quite expensive, especially the Americans. But that's just something that you have to do, and it's worth it having everyone here, and they made it.
It must be a very fine balancing act, not only all the logistics you're describing, but the money aspect as well, because there's never as much money as one would like, I suppose. Of course, the SICMF over the years has built a fantastic portfolio of donors, sponsors, supporters.
There's much to be said about that. And the person we really have to thank is Peter Martens. My portfolio is finance, but it's just managing a budget or completing whatever task is assigned to me. But Peter is the one that builds these relationships, and he's an absolute sweetheart, and so thankful for everything. And he has also been helping me with flights. He single-handedly booked them before. And he's even our luxury accommodation for faculty members like Rosenwein. I actually recently discovered this, and this is very typical of Peter, but he would never say this. But during COVID, actually, he still paid Rosenwein. He still paid workers even though they had no jobs to do. So we have an incredible relationship with the people around us, and that's definitely thanks to Peter Martens. And our sponsors, we have Takara, and we have the Ruperts and Marita Channel, that is such a patron. She is here all the time. And it's incredible to see the lasting relationships we have.
I mean, they're listed at the back of this program as well. How many different individuals, organizations have supported the festival over the years?
Many.
It is very inspiring.
It's inspiring, and it's awesome to see that they show up every single year and that we can almost count on them. And I think there's a really good relationship, and Takara is on our banners, and they actually help us with a welcoming dinner for all the faculty members, and we all feel so grand, and they're very kind.
And rightly so, because, well, as we've said many times during these interviews, it's all about the community and the ecosystem, and it just goes to show once again how many role players it takes to make this festival happen. We don't think enough perhaps of the accommodation just around the corner who have been putting people up here for, and the fact that faculty can pretty much just walk to and from as they need to back to their
Yes.
accommodation freshened up before a concert
Yes.
is a real privilege. I mean, that's
It
sort
is,
of
absolutely.
5-star in a way.
Yes, and the accommodation, we have Russenbyn and Bonnesperans,
Mm.
and they're right next to each other. And I saw in one of the archives, we give out those silly awards with the wine bottles, and we gave an award to Boris because he managed to get lost in between Russenbyn and the
Yes.
Endler. And
I
just for
think I remember
context,
that.
it's literally a street down.
It is.
But he seems to have found his way
Right,
way back.
yes. I guess Moscow is a much larger, more complicated city than Stellenbosch.
he's well traveled.
One
I
could
don't know
forgive
why
him
he got
maybe
so.
But Teresa, you mentioned the mentorship you've received from Peter Martens, and once again, the sort of passing on and training the next generation, which is
Yes.
either happening through music or through other aspects. And you're very passionate about arts administration, so much so that you were awarded a travel scholarship last year from this festival as part of its 20th anniversary
Yes.
to visit Brent Reynolds, the former logistics manager of this festival. He's based at the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. You sadly, though, because of geopolitical complications, haven't quite got there yet.
No, unfortunately not, because my original exchange was organized for late March, and at that very moment, the Dubai airport was shut down. Literally, when my flight was supposed to have a layover in Dubai. So I unfortunately was not able to make it. But again, this is such a human, I wanted to say company, but Chamberfest is just so human, and we're also thankful. And Brent definitely understands Chamberfest and the people, and Peter Martens and Nina is of course a big role player, and she's the one that convinced Peter to give me that scholarship. So again, we're flexible, and we make plans, and I really hope to still visit this year. I was also going to stay with Daniel and Maya. They were
Gosh,
kind
fantastic.
enough to offer accommodation for a little while because the house is full. They've got the little girls.
Of course.
But I will definitely go there as well, and I have a lot to learn from Brent.
What are some of the things that stand out for you as being skills, perhaps that you can really then bring back to plow into this festival, say, or into the next stage of your career?
That is a good question. I'm actually writing an entire thesis about that.
Is that so?
Yes.
Gosh.
Well, with Brent, I think management, time management, managing your life. Brent is also, he mentioned the concept of artistic entrepreneurship, which is basically what this is. And I think people like Peter and Nina and me, we're all spread quite thin. We can't help ourselves. We just have to get involved and help. And that's also why I think the term entrepreneurship stuck with me, and I'm assuming Brent, is because that means a small team and just working hard and being efficient and working with what you have. Because everyone here, we know what we have.
Yes.
And we're all very passionate. So.
And you're also a musician. You know what it's like on the other side. And you know when you're dealing with a faculty artist, what it could be like to, who knows, be temporarily separated from your instrument, or some of the constraints or requirements or demands they have when they need to be on stage.
Yes.
But you know, because you've been there yourself. And that
Yes,
puts you in a very sort of strong position,
Yes.
perhaps, to be in this particular role and niche.
Agreed. I always thought about the balance between being a musician in administration, because we're artists, we have disorganized, chaotic personalities. But on the other hand, if you're not a musician, there's also a learning curve. And I don't exactly quite know what that balance is. But for myself, I definitely have the passion, and I will always get involved and be present and show up.
And that's palpable. And there are other ways in this festival in which you've been participating. You've called it the best seat in the house, sitting sometimes on Nina's left-hand side while she's been at the piano.
Yes.
A few nights now. How has that been? Is it the most terrifying job, turning pages for a faculty concert?
Yesterday specifically was...
For the Bartok.
The Bartok was terrifying for multiple reasons. The music is very difficult to follow.
Mm.
I was on the edge of the stage. I kept on checking that I won't fall over. And at some point, there were 2 pages, 2 full pages, 4 bars. And you might have seen in the live stream that Nina held the page or just helped me out there. But we all made it. Me and Christoph, the other page,
Yes,
we were
indeed.
definitely part of I felt part of the ensemble there.
Well, once again, one of those roles without whom this festival could not happen. So,
Yes.
Teresa, thank you. We're on day 4, almost the end of day 4 now, and so far so good, it seems.
Phew.
So all strength and patience for the remaining week, and then, as you mentioned, your role really ramps up again after the festival. So
That is, people have to get paid
right,
and return home safely.
safely, indeed.
Yes, safely.
One of the pleasures of hosting these live streams is discovering how people contribute to the life of this festival beyond just the concerts we see inside the Endler. The SICMF, as I hope you're understanding from these interviews, really is an enormous collaborative undertaking. And so just before we head inside the Endler for tonight's faculty concert, let's revisit one of the most beautiful moments from last night's concert. This is the second movement, the intermezzo, from Mendelssohn's First String Quintet. And just to say, Teresa, again, thanks very much for your time. See you soon.
A very special 4th faculty concert awaits us this evening at the 2026 SICMF. Welcome if you've just joined us. You are beholding, well, certainly in my mind, one of the finest concert hall stages in this country. The Endler Hall, as part of the Stellenbosch Conserve at Stellenbosch University, is a fantastic space. As you can see, a large, spacious stage, wonderful organ, a really nice acoustic in which to play. You can hear everything, but I found, at least in my brief experience of performing on this stage, it's not an intimidating acoustic. It's quite a welcoming, in some ways, comforting acoustic. Everything is very clear. It's warm, but not too much so. As with everything, it's a good balance, a Goldilocks type of concert hall, one might say. 3 works on the program tonight, as you may already know. The first by John Corigliano, the contemporary living American composer, his Voyage for String Orchestra. And then the main work on this evening's program, A Tough Tale by Owen Dalton, the special commission as part of this year's SICMF. Owen is a young South African composer. That's why I've been wearing my Soccer World Cup scarf from all those years ago in celebration of this new South African composition that enters our local oeuvre after tonight. And that is a world premiere that will unfold in 3 movements, but I will tell you more about that after the first piece on the program. And then after the interval, Brahms. It's funny because it says here in the program, clarinet quintet for strings, which sounds like a contradiction. And of course it is, because Brahms originally wrote this work for clarinet quintet, i.e. strings and clarinet. But the version we hear tonight is a special rearrangement of that piece for 5 strings instead, which is quite special. I've never heard that version, and I'm quite excited to hear it. You'll almost certainly recognize the Brahms when you hear it. It's a fantastic piece, a very well-known piece. Brahms greatly admired the clarinet, and so it'll be a treat to hear it in its different guise this evening as a string piece. Well, the lights have dimmed, as you can see in the Endler here, with the characteristic SICMF purple on the walls, but that suggests that the musicians are about to join us, and as you can tell, lots of seats, lots of stands, lots of instruments on the stage this evening. This is a chamber music festival, but really celebrating all the forces that comprise chamber music, whether that's just strings or a small orchestra for the Dalton piece a little bit later. What a treat. All the more color and excitement for us as listeners and audience and supporters. And so there, Suzanne and Peter Martens leading the charge, bringing on the musicians for the Voyage for String Orchestra by John Corigliano. Now, this piece has been described as a drugged version of heaven, full of sensual imagery. So think of Debussy, Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun, Am I Awake, Am I Asleep? All very sensuous, decadent, luxurious. Enjoy that color, those images, which of course the strings are just perfectly able to express. Very sensual, very dreamlike, this piece. It was originally composed in 1971 and reworked for strings in the version we hear it now in 1978, forming a South African premiere this evening. Farida Bakharova leading this work. Voyage for String Orchestra by John Corigliano, coming to you live from the Endler Hall here in Stellenbosch. Long phrases creating a bed of sound as only string instruments can manage. Voyage for string orchestra by the contemporary American composer John Corigliano, played by a selection of our faculty artists and students, led by Farida Bakharova. And didn't you love how she really held the atmosphere, held the tension at the very end of the piece? That final phrase there, not wanting to disturb too much the atmosphere that had been created. It says here in the program notes that that voyage should encourage a lover to imagine living in a distant country with canals and dreamy dusk-lit fields. The composer Corigliano has written a lot of film music, most famously for the Red Violin. He's won many Grammys, an Academy Award, a Pulitzer Prize. He's a master, clearly, at creating that kind of atmosphere, which he does so sensually and so well. Well, now there's some rearrangement of the stage needed to accommodate an even larger and more varied ensemble for one of the highlights of this early part of the SICMF. As always, on usually this Monday or Tuesday evening of the festival, is the world premiere of a new South African work that's been especially commissioned for the festival by the artistic director Nina Schumann. And tonight that privilege falls to Owen Dalton and his work, A Tough Tale. And if you joined us last night, or if you're keen to look back maybe a little bit later, I had a really great chat with Owen during the interval yesterday, just to talk a bit about the context of this piece, how he came about deciding which texts to use, how the music then emerged from those texts to create this three-movement work. And as he mentioned, there's also a sort of postlude or postscript to the end of this work, which is a reworking of a piece he's himself previously written that ends the piece on a hopeful note. So very excited to hear and indeed see what emerges in front of us this evening. And the audience here in the Enloe going wild already for the arrival of various faculty artists who will be leading their parts this evening. So Owen Dalton was born in 1998. He was a student here at the University of Stellenbosch, having studied with Hans Rosenskoen, Antoni Skonken, Arthur Fieder. He was placed first in the South African Composers Award competition last year, after placing in the top 3 in the 2 preceding years, 2023 and 2024. And then a recent work of his, Century Machines, was performed in Mexico. And he's currently a composer in residence with the Cape Town Philharmonic Orchestra. The influences, it says here, of Shostakovich, Stravinsky, John Adams, Schnittke are apparent in his works. And the piece to be premiered this evening is entitled A Tough Tale. And it's based on the work of 3 poets, Tereska Muishont, Ankie Kroch, and Mongane Wale Serote. Dalton selected excerpts from Muishont's hitherto unpublished poetry, reflecting on her life experiences as a colored woman, her depression, her relationship with the Afrikaans language, and her cultural identity. The second movement is based on poetry by Ankie Kroch that deals with colonialism and also ironically examines the life of an Afrikaner in the 1980s. And then the final movement, which is based on poetry by Serote, is anti-apartheid poetry, specifically A Tough Tale, from which this composition derives its name. And then, as I mentioned just now, the third movement concludes with a section for orchestra alone that the composer considers akin to a fourth movement, serving as a beacon of hope given the suffering described by the poets. Now, a work of this nature, at least over previous SICMFs, has typically been quite evocative, quite sort of filmic in the colors and episodes that it creates and explores through music. Tereska herself will be the narrator this evening. Very special way of combining words and music, spoken word. Of course, normally when words are included in music, they would be sung, perhaps by a soloist or a chorus. One thinks of choral works or opera or lieder, but tonight they will be spoken. And Zandi van Dijk our faculty violist, who's visiting this festival, a regular friend of this festival, who frequently is the conductor of choice for these world premieres, will be on the podium this evening. Well, we seem to have almost everyone on stage, a large ensemble. You'd be forgiven for thinking this was one of the final nights of the festival, where we have the festival symphony orchestra or the concert orchestra taking the stage. But tonight it is Monday, the 6th of July, the 4th faculty concert, the world premiere of A Tough Tale by Owen Dalton, a South African work, and it unfolds in 3 movements. The first, poetry by Tereska Moisont, who will be our narrator this evening. The second, poetry by Aiki Kroch. And the third, poetry by Mongane Wale Serote, A Tough Tale, which gives this piece its name. Suzanne Martens, our concertmaster this evening. Peter Grobler on piano this evening. Large number of strings, winds, and brass. You can see very prominently the sponsorship on those fantastic banners that we enjoy every year, hanging alongside the organ there, Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival, the sponsorship by Tukara that Teresa was discussing with us a little bit earlier. And so welcoming to the stage now our narrator, Tereska Moisont. She's followed by Zandi van Dijk, who will be leading this performance as conductor. Welcome. Very, very good to have you all on the stage, greeting the concertmaster, the deputy concertmaster, taking his place on the podium. You were here when it was first performed, the world premiere of this work by Owen Dalton at the 2026 Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival, A Tough Tale. Let's embark on this musical journey of our identity and shared history together.
Waiting, silently waiting for the last ray of sunshine to disappear. To curl up in the comfort of despairing darkness. Waiting, impatiently waiting for the ominous clouds to dissipate so I can see the glory of a smiling day. Waiting anxiously, alone, for someone to mend this broken soul. My people are confused. My people are confused. I am confused, and I'm sure I have you confused. The question is, am I confused because your confusion is confusing me? Or am I confused because confusion is a state of mind in which I hide, in which I thrive? I'm confused. What happens when you take away a people's identity? Like snatching mother's milk from a suckling baby, classifying them as a non-entity, neither this nor that, neither bad, but neither good enough. What happens when you force a people to live in between two shades? Shades of white, shades of black. They die inside. They slowly forget who they are, and then they forget that they have forgotten themselves. What happens when you erase a people's footprints from the sand, remove them from their land? They stare with hollow eyes into the future, seeing only as far as this next Friday when they can inebriate their spirits with the white man's spirits, searching for their identities at the bottom of a court castle, drop, splash, dropping their hopes and dreams in a glass of J&B, selling their souls to SAB. Shovels and shovels, buckets and bigger buckets, bathtubs and bombastic containers cannot carry the tears of the innocent child as she silently swallows the genetic woe of a forgotten generation who forgot that they were long forgotten. Dams and deeper dams, rivers overflowing, tsunami like torrents spewing forth my angry tears as I cry for my people. I cry for the San, I cry for the Khoi Khoi, I cry for the Griqua, the Nama, the Kurana. I cry for our lost cultures and our forgotten languages. See, my people were dressed by the sky, rubbed sunshine on their skin, wore truth in their hair. My people invented the beat. Rhythm was born in their feet. But now they sway to hollow tunes from the West. That's why I cry for my people. For my people are lost. My people are angry. My people are sad. And I am saddened by their sadness. My mother speaks a borrowed tongue. Its intonations and inflections I suckled from her breast. My father speaks the tongue of a proud Griqua man, rich with wisdom and humility. But neither Tri nor Tre. My sister, though, speaks a foreign tongue. Beautiful to hear its sovereignty bragging in my ear. My beloved grandmother speaks to me from the grave. She whispers softly, lovingly, tenderly, in a familiar tongue that makes me feel safe. But I fear her words will soon reach me incoherently. You see, I too speak an alien tongue. Beautiful to hear, its sovereignty bragging in my ear. Ashamed to speak my own, afraid to make myself known despite feeling disjointed, alone. Why, verwoord? Why? You force this tongue upon a people. Thanks to you, it is a painful tongue, a scornful tongue. A delinquent tongue. Ag Here, ouma, ek word soms so bloody moeg. Heeldag moet ek visie spoeg. But just like the Bible you held close to your heart, from Afrikaans, I will never part. Ek is jullend, julle. Julle ek pekel, hou liggame lig in vrye windsels, visioene reep ek tot spreek. Terwille van ons snak na land, smyt voordeur op waardevelde, springbokvelle sprei. Waar sterre nagtelik ons patrone koop, gebore vry te stap, die smalte ons in. Vryheid bly wesenlik van wees, ons eis 'n herbegin. Imperium son hang reeds harig, swart gesag. Horizonne ratel. Uitgegroeide nasies met blink velle suig alle geweld, alle uitklad van tuine. Die maan is as. Rooi mure dubbel ons vel in riole. Angelskerpioene ratel teen pype. Huise stort ineen. 'n ringmuur kolle. Vriende, ons vermoor sonder wraak. Ons rafel niemand tot karkas vir honde. Deur vry word kerf ons so delikaat, 'n dis vir gode. Niemand kom ons na. Die nag hang vanaf my oë horebeloos. Twyfel deins gefeins in die tent. Soms tussen heilboer, boon en lekker breek wilwil. Bakens koers dui glinster nyl, syn oogpyl piramides teen die laat aan son. Madikwe blair, offerandes in poleerde slip. Ons is verbind tot betrokke wees. Ons bid 'n magtige onlus. Ons vrees nie mislukking nie, nie geweld, nie dood. Ons gesin wurg aan ons keel. Om die visioen, ons betaal die pleitende prys daagliks, trek ons voort na die punt. Sy dit net 'n einde wees, aan ons skoulik onder liedjies gras en armoedskryt. Sy dit koors wees van tog iets te leef, as gevlekte mens iets saamgewring te sien, naby rondom te waan. Iewers sweepklap dinge in verband. Hoe verder die horison na agter, hoe moeisame rinkels verbeelding, hoe swaarder sleep 'n verbitterde geheue. O stad, raamwerk van alle stuwing, stad wat altyd hard is. Ek sien jou voor my, skitterend, ontdaan van God en Jesus mik. Stad wat ook menslik murg is en gees. O my susters in kombies en stasiewaans, met stylvolle donker brille en hare teen die grys getint. Liggame wat soggens in vleurige leeutards jog en gym en yoga, verbete klou en soepelheid en pil. Soos ons by mekaar op oor brûe verbyjag, in stofwolke stop langs sportvelde, aandagtig sit en tyd hou voor musiekkamers, mekaar in die heel bid op Bybelstudies, wonder ek, van watter breed is ons? In die meedoenlose metodiek van beplanning erken ek die waansin van wapak, die drif waarmee kinders gedryf word tot uithaal en byhou ryk na kamp en troep. So soos ons op sanders onlinne sit en aai en paai en die mans by ingebouwde kroeg drink en desperaat praat oor naai. Weet ons is die laaste. Die laaste wat kinders teer laat verblond op melk en heuning. Ons is die laaste. Agter ons, onder ons, langs ons, stort met die sagte geluid van as strukture wat ons soort in stand hou in hulle maai. We want the world to know we have come a long way now. We are not like spotless white shirts. We are khaki. It is the time, the road, the dust, the heat, the rain, and the wind which did it all. At the deep of night, when the heartbeat keeps space with the persistent twinkle of the stars, when we hear the slow pace of the moon and our breath keeps our eyelids blinking, we listen, we watch with our silent fingers, we page for wisdom through the stubborn night. Sleepless, we ask, what is stubborn patience? We page through each other's faces. We read each looking eye. It has taken lives to be able to do so. We move like a tortoise as we journey home. Home. Where are we that we are not home? It is a long story, this. That is why we page every face and read each look and move like a tortoise. Please, spare our tongue not to relate the long story, because when your mother goes mad, you would rather help her to sanity than just talk about her madness. We want to help ours in this long time of bewilderment. She's done and shown us the most strange of things, so we stalk her. That is why we are not home. Here comes the day. The day here is not like the one we knew or were used to. The light here is too bright and the heat too strong and the sky too vast and weighs heavenly on the shoulders. We carry it through, one step at a time. We hear each pulse of the heart and each blink of the eye and keep the mind in its shell. For we are stubborn. We value life here, in the heat, under this vast sky, here, under the naked light of the sun. We perched on treetops. We grow gentle eyes. We turn sinew nerves into thin steel wires and merge our voices with the breeze of the open air. Yeah, under this incredible light, we watch the demon wear many faces and eyes and styles of walking and laughter. Ah, we really have come a long way. We all live here now at the twilight, where shadows and light bob and weave, twist and try to break each other's neck. Here, it gets too cold or too hot, and at times too wet or too dry. Ah, by watching and listening, we have all learned and come to know that the weather is not good for anyone. The miners who sight like a chameleon now changes the color of their stare. These men, like ants on their busy journeys, end beneath the earth, nibbling it like rats. They gnaw at it, listening to the dripping, drifting water and the falling sods, the roaring machines and hammers, which like fire erasing grass, erase all memories of loved ones. For holes are forever cold and dark, and they threaten life. These men emerge from the hole to the sunlight which yields no hope, for it never visits their compound where other men lie on their backs and stare at the asbestos ceiling as their minds, like wailing glass, shatter against the thick cold wall of loneliness. Where is my wife, my children, my mother, my father, my brother? Oh, my house where I sang, laughed, and cried. Where is that sun that climbs above the trees, dragging shadows along around the houses, the trees, moving shadows, strolling along with the cattle, goats, and sheep whose neck bells ring and ring into the dark night? Have the children grown up? Do the children know where I am? Does Nomafa tell them? Nomafa, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years away. When does 3 years become now? But I know when the song like rain, like thunder holds the sky, and the footsteps like the roar of a wild flood emerge, and we like fire rear and roll towards the iron gates on the day of the strike, then what is it like? It is like being drunk. No. It is like being happy. No. It is like crying from pain of joy. No. What is it like? How does one tell it? It is the distant glitter of freedom.
The audience on its feet, you heard it here first. July 2026 at the SICMF, A Tough Tale, the world premiere of a new piece especially commissioned for this festival by the young South African composer Owen Dalton, who's making his way down to the stage now. Conducted by Zandi van Dijk, Tereska Meusont as narrator, as Nina Schumann, the artistic director of this festival, requested, a work that should amplify marginalized voices or stories that we don't often get to hear. And that is what Owen has set out to do in his composition tonight, celebrating the poetry of our narrator, Tereska Meusont, Anki Kroch, and Mongane Wale Serote, telling our shared story as South Africans and imagining a better, brighter future, which is what this festival aims to cultivate. Well, truly, so many of the stars of this year's SICMF now on the stage here in the Endler Hall, coming to you live. Tereska Meusont, Owen Dalton, our composer, Zandi van Dijk, our conductor, thanking the entire orchestra, a large ensemble comprising almost all of our faculty artists here at the SICMF this year, and many, many of the students. Very touching embrace there between narrator and composer. Very enthusiastic appreciation from the audience. Thank you for joining us. Let us know what you thought about that work. Didn't you enjoy the composer's rich orchestration, all the melodic, all the harmonic elements? Always so much to listen out for, be aware of. I had to sneak into the hall for most of that performance, and gosh, just enjoying all the different colors and the rapidly changing soundscape in combination with the words that were being expressed. Very special indeed. Well, thank you for joining us. That concludes a significant event in this year's SICMF. Don't go away. I'm now going to chat to Micklin Laipang, faculty violinist, a first-timer at this year's SICMF. He was playing in the ensemble now, so it's going to be fun to hear from him what it was like to be a part of this world's premiere.
Welcome back to the foyer of the Enloe Hall. And there's something exhilarating, isn't there, about a world premiere, about hearing a brand new piece of music collectively for the very first time. And so hot off the stage, still brandishing his instrument. I have to behave myself with a bow like that. It's one of the most anticipated arrivals at this year's SICMF, but no stranger to Cape Town audiences, having appeared in the past 7 months, although it feels like yesterday, with the Cape Town Philharmonic Orchestra, Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto, and then earlier this year, the Franschhoek Chamber Music Festival in February. I'm delighted to welcome faculty violinist Micklin Laipang. Micklin, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, John.
You were just saying you're playing 8 out of the 10
Yeah, it's kind of
concerts,
crazy. It's kind
which must be something of a festival record.
I blame Nina and Peter in the nicest way possible because I really enjoy working with the other faculty members and the students. But yeah, I think I play concert 1 to 7, and then I have an 8 and 9 break, and then I play concert 10.
Of course,
Concerto,
the Mendelssohn, the double concerto.
Violin and piano concerto, yeah.
But I mean, in many ways, this has been sort of a long time coming, being part of this festival.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that the artistic and festival director are extracting their pound of flesh from you. Everyone wants a piece of Micklin these days.
No, it's so fun to be in South Africa. I'm spoiled by people here, but like with the just the personalities and just how friendly everyone is. Even just by the piece that we heard now, you can tell how many different cultures and how many different stories people have in this country. And I find it so beautiful to just be a part of the culture here and to be a part of the music, that's in this country.
So can we reflect on the particular piece you just played now? I mean, because a lot of the other music you're playing is sort of more sort of standard repertoire.
Yeah.
So, and we can chat about the kind of similarities and differences, but what was it like for you, as someone who's in a way starting to get to know South Africa and our very complex, nuanced, rich, complicated history, collective identity in this sort of post-apartheid era? How did it feel for you, this piece unfolding and finding its feet?
I mean, first of all, I think we have to give a big round of applause to Owen because I think he's an incredible, he's such a young talent, and he was born here.
Exactly,
right?
and studied here in
And he studied
Stellenbosch,
here in
and he's
Stellenbosch as
won
well.
a lot of local composition prizes.
But the way that he orchestrates things symphonically and voicing and also gives way for a voice, I think it's beautiful what he's done. It's, I'm new to at least what is happening, in this, as in like, I'm still learning in America, we don't really learn much about world history. But that's another conversation for later. But one thing that I've noticed being here is how kind people are to each other. And I think that's something that the whole world needs to see. I mean, especially my country, the United States. Sorry, I should stop.
I'm glad to hear you say that because, one could also argue us South Africans, we're really hard on ourselves as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, we're actually very unkind to one another, and we should perhaps be a lot kinder and more sensitive. I mean, certainly I think here is a very special type of person and environment. And in fact, it probably is like that on the street. But gosh, if you start moving into the political arena, it makes you very nervous about the future of our country.
It becomes extremely polarized.
Right.
But one thing I've noticed, and I think it's beautiful how there's still this beautiful energy. There's still this beautiful want for a better life, for a better cohesive society. And I think I find that really beautiful. The hate aside, and like the all the stuff.
And in every society
has
there'll
that.
be some of
But
that.
what I've seen here, especially at least with the music and with the people that I've met all over the place, there's this special sense of kindness, generosity, and genuine beauty in everyone that I think I've been to about, not flexing on anyone, but I've been to about 90-ish countries, and like South Africa for me, as a society, as a people, is one of my favorite and most genuinely humane and beautiful people that I've met.
And that's surely one of the things that keeps drawing you back.
That brings me back.
Yeah.
Obviously everywhere has problems. But for me, it's just beautiful to feel what's inside and to feel that warmth. And so I'm so happy to be here.
And to being part of the ensemble this evening,
Yes.
how did that kind of feel? Because that's different from the role we might see you playing on the stage on other evenings.
That's true. I mean, like, it's so nice to also play in an ensemble, in a section with kids and kids from different places in the world and different walks of life. You know, we have people in my section from Europe and people in my section from, you know, from townships, from areas in South Africa, and in, you know, it's
I'm sure those in your immediate radius
Yeah.
just basking in that glow, kind of
Exactly.
the ultimate masterclass in a way to be playing alongside
but
the master.
exactly, and it's so beautiful to do that, because that's honestly what I love to do, is this kind of work without words, in other words. So it's like I love playing side by side with people and students.
Yeah,
and
demonstrating, teaching,
Exactly.
exemplifying through doing,
by
role
just
modeling
doing it.
in a way.
Exactly, and it's beautiful, and especially in this piece, to do it in a section and to lead a section from all walks of life. So yeah.
I mean, you mentioned a little bit earlier, in some ways, kind of sort of a lower stakes evening or a performance,
Yeah.
given the magnitude. I mean,
my
leading
gosh.
many of the other ensembles.
Yeah, I mean, it's so yeah. The first day was a nonet by Laval's, which was so difficult, but it's still. And the next day was a Franck quintet for me.
Right.
Then yesterday was a Mendelssohn quintet.
Indeed.
And then tonight is luckily an orchestral piece. That's fine. Tomorrow is a Widman quartet, which we're going to do like 6 hours of rehearsal on. We have done 4 so far. We have 2 more tomorrow, and that.
And I mean, Wittmann deserves the special
I know.
attention if there's going to be any
I
composer.
know. And it's all over. It's incredible. I mean, I'm playing with incredible people, with Daniel Rowland and with Dana Zemtsov and with David Cohen. It's good. It's a fun cast, but man, it's a lot of work. And so, you know, we have that, and then the next day with Glier Octet.
Fantastic.
And then I mean, it goes on and on and on. But
So for those who are listening tomorrow night
Yeah.
to the Wittmann for the first, they might be quite intimidated by
Yeah.
his music that we've heard before at this festival.
Yes.
How would you recommend approaching that piece?
Well, so if you listen to last year, it was the Octet.
Yes.
And that's a piece that it's all over the place. Like
Yeah.
you really can't.
I mean, that
yeah, you.
the musicians got through that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fantastic.
I mean, it seems like someone got on, we called it Sibelius, the finale, like on the music notation side, and just like smashed the key. So mean. I should not say. But you know, like all this extended technique and all these random notes all over the place. But this one tomorrow is a study, is one of his Beethoven studies
Yes.
on Opus 130 Beethoven String Quartet, and it has so many cool. Not influences, examples inside the piece. And what makes this difficult is that it's very schizophrenic. So it goes from one side to another side and like changes tempo from like 174
these
to
massively
180.
contrasting characters.
And it's fairly tonal. Should be. We'll see. But it's fairly tonal. But it's great. It's such a joy to play with these faculty members. And it's honestly, people have been telling me like, you have no idea what you're going to they can't really explain what I'm going to feel at this festival because it's my first time.
Yeah.
And like, wow, you're flying by the seat of your pants. You're like literally feel as though like you're pulled behind a jet.
And it's
all the
24/7. I
Yeah,
mean, it's relentless in the best
24/7.
possible way. But gosh,
yeah.
again, they're getting the most out of you.
No, but I'm so happy to be here, and so thank you.
So, Micklin, I'm interested to know the kind of musician side of you. What's going on inside your mind when you're playing something like the Mendelssohn yesterday,
Oh, yeah.
Owen's piece now, the Wittmann tomorrow? Is it always the same Micklin, the same kind of skill set approach you're bringing to each of those works, or do you find they really require considerably different takes or approaches or ways of being?
I mean, those 3 pieces that you mentioned. So yesterday was the Mendelssohn, and I was playing second violin to Miriam, who's a dear friend of mine, who actually
So you had a rapport before being
yeah,
here.
so I recommended her to Nina to come to the festival.
Gosh,
And so
fantastic.
it was so nice that Nina put us together in this piece. But my role was to be support as the second violin, and to just be there and to do whatever supports her to do her most beautiful lines and her ideas. Today in the Dalton, in Owen's piece, my role was to like help a section to blend with other sections
Right.
and as an orchestral player. And tomorrow, as first violin, I'm becoming a psychomaniac,
Yeah.
trying to make sure
The
everything's lined
ringleader
up
of
and,
this
and
madness.
cueing like 5/8 to 12/16 to all this stuff. And
So
yeah,
all these different hats,
very different.
all these different
Yeah.
personalities one needs to take on depending on the musical
Depends
challenges.
on the piece. Yeah, exactly.
And that's something you develop kind of over time with experience,
Yeah.
is knowing which sort of persona almost
Yeah.
is needed to be adopted.
Exactly. I think it's through just training. I think growing up in a musical family has also helped.
Yeah.
But
So being
also,
exposed to
exactly.
the rich variety from the very beginning.
Exactly, to different styles of music, different ways of playing. My teachers have always made it a point to put me in different positions to, just so that it can affect how I live in a professional world later on, which is now. I hope
Yeah.
I'm a professional, but yeah.
You celebrated a significant personal accomplishment, the launch of your solo debut album just a couple of months, or last month
it's actually
or
June.
so even.
It came out June 5th or
Right,
so.
yeah. So almost the month anniversary of that. It's called Deep River. So
Yes.
please, Spotify on all the platforms, it'll be.
Yep.
Tell us about that, the process of recording,
Yeah.
because a lot of the music that we're hearing as part of this festival, of course, it's being live streamed, but there's a kind of spontaneity to it. It's kind of a one shot at it almost. But setting something down and as an album, what is that approach like? And how do you decide on an interpret and which pieces? And so many decisions you need to make.
Well, this album that I just released with this incredible pianist Nigel, he's incredible collaborator. But it's called Deep River for multiple reasons. The first reason, it's the first piece in the CD is called Deep River, and
wonderful
it's an
spiritual.
African American spiritual. And then it goes into, basically, it's also a metaphor for a river flowing through my life where I've lived and to where I've landed up now, which is Paris. And so it goes through like operas that I've loved, that I've played, to waltzes that I've heard in Vienna, to Porgy and Bess at the end, because Gershwin was an American in Paris, which is, I guess, me. But it's an incredible. I found out a few days ago or last week that it got nominated by my label for a Grammy, which is super cool. Super blessed to have. But the label was so nice enough to give me this opportunity to put together a program that was me, and to put something together that was reflective on my life. And so I'm so lucky to have done it with this label.
There must have been challenges musically, personally, sort of
Yeah.
setting it down, or was it a fairly kind of straightforward process?
It took a bit of time. But I mean, because there's so many pieces in my life that I've come across that have meant a lot to me. And it was, at the end, it was both really difficult but easy. Yeah, so I don't know. It was.
Do you think it's something you'll be able to? Do you listen to your own recordings?
No.
So
I don't dare. I even there's some of these recordings that I like from the last 3 days. I've listened to 5 seconds,
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna run away.
But on the other hand, the value of recording and being able to share
It
and
is.
reach so much, which is such a passion of yours, is communication. I mean, that is ultimately what we are trying to do with our music.
Yeah.
What would you say, if you can distill quickly, one or two of the sort of lessons or bits of advice you're really hoping to share with the students while you're here at this festival?
I think for me, it's you need to learning music is more than about playing the right notes. It's more about listening to what your teacher has to say. It's actually, you actually build yourself as a person by playing music. You learn patience, you learn integrity, you learn so many different cultures. You play Russian music, German music, American music. Not that but you have, with music, we're so lucky to have this medium that we can take an experience that we've had from outside and funnel it into this wooden instrument and speak through it and touch the lives of so many people. And for me, my advice to people, to students, is to really, really soak up everything that you have around you and try to just
Be a
enjoy
sponge.
it. Be a sponge, enjoy it, and really treat every note that you have like it's your last note. And I think for me, I try to live every note that I have as a story to tell. And for me, that's That's my advice.
Thanks, Micklin. That's a beautiful distillation of just the first couple of decades
Yeah.
of wisdom and experience. So many more to come. You are a wine fan,
Yes,
right?
I
Do you
am,
have
yeah.
a preference, a particular kind of cultivar or
Oh my
red or
gosh.
white or
And a pinotage.
Pinotage? Really? That's South African. That's the right answer. So,
Good.
so grateful to you
Thank
for
you so
making the
much.
time.
Thank you, John.
In just a few moments, we're going to head back inside the Endler for one of Brahms's supreme achievements, his clarinet quintet, but in this special arrangement tonight, just for strings. And so speaking of strings, while we head back inside, let's take another look back at last night's faculty concert to the opening minutes of the final movement of Mendelssohn's first string quintet, in which my guest Micklin played.
Still catching my breath after Micklin's infectious energy. He is such a pleasure to talk to and so inspirational. And I hope you felt the same. And I hope you enjoyed all those gems that he shared with us there. Gosh, so much to unpack and discover about what goes on inside a musician's mind, especially someone of that caliber who's touring the world, traveling. I mean, nominated for a Grammy, his album. Really fantastic. And once again, testament to the caliber of musician and artist we have here at the SICMF. So keep an eye out. Certainly go listen to his album, Deep River, on all streaming platforms. Listen out for that Jürgman work tomorrow evening, and then all the other pieces in which he'll be involved, including that Mendelssohn double concerto on Sunday, on the final day of this festival. And so you'll notice all the chairs have been packed away or neatly stacked on those back rows of the Endler Hall. Stands have been packed away. We are reducing our forces all the way down from what was essentially a symphony orchestra that we had on stage in the first half down to a quintet. A string quintet, not a clarinet quintet, as you may have thought if you'd seen the title of this work, because it's originally the clarinet quintet by Brahms, but then this rearrangement for strings. So at the time, the clarinet was a fairly kind of new instrument. Mozart, of course, had played a large role in its development, and Brahms's interest in the clarinet had been spurred on by the conductor Fritz Steinbach, and he introduced Brahms to a famous clarinetist, Richard Mühlfeld, and Henny getting a spontaneous round of applause, placing all the tablets and scores in their correct positions, matching tablets and pedals to musicians. Anyway, Brahms was so enamored with the playing of this particular clarinetist, Mühlfeld, that he began composing works featuring the clarinet in a leading role. And so the clarinet quintet was written, this trio, clarinet trio as well. And then 3 years later, Brahms would also complete 2 sonatas for the clarinet. And so all of these works, the clarinet quintet, the trio, the 2 sonatas, have become central to the chamber music repertoire. And so, fittingly, this evening's arrangement for strings will include vibrato, of course, in the clarinet line, which is not something one always hears too much of when the clarinet is playing a line. But that was one of the trademarks of Mühlfeld, for whom this piece was written. He would use a lot of vibrato in his clarinet playing. Quite a lineup again of soloists in this performance, or I should call them soloists in the context of a chamber work. Daniel Rowland and Farida Bakharova as our violinists, Mikhail Zemtsov and Dana Zemtsov as violists, and Maya Bogdanovich as cello. This work unfolds over 4 movements: fast, slow, fairly fast, fast, allegro, adagio, andantino, and con moto, the finale. I think this is the first time we're hearing Brahms at this year's festival. We concluded last year's festival with his first symphony, which is a fantastic piece and formed a large part of the documentary that was made of last year's festival celebrating 20 years of the SICMF. But what would an SICMF be without Brahms, without Mendelssohn, without the newly commissioned work that we heard earlier this evening? That's how this chamber music magic comes about, is the variety and the richness of it all. You can be sure the moment the musicians come out, I'm I'm going to be leaving you, because I want to go inside the hall and listen to this music as it unfolds. The audience are in for a real treat tonight. Good support, always tricky on these cold winter's evenings, and a lot of folks driving in from Cape Town, making the trek to be here. A lot of locals as well, of course, but very heartwarming for the performers, the musicians, also for the students to see the support for live music here in the Western Cape in 2026. These tickets are always very modestly priced as well, ensuring that the festival can still survive financially, as we heard from Teresa earlier this evening, but that it's as open and accessible to all as possible. Second time we're seeing Farida this evening, and the Zemtsovs, Daniel Rowland, Maya Bogdanovich. Beautifully coordinated in their SICMF colors. And now enjoy this clarinet quintet, opus 115, but arranged here specially for strings by Johannes Brahms, that unfolds over 4 movements, coming to you live from the Endler Hall in Stellenbosch at the 2026 Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. a dream team bringing to life the Clarinet Quintet, Opus 115, but there in a special arrangement for string quintet by Johannes Brahms. And ending on such a mournful, reflective note, but not after a whole kaleidoscope of emotions in the preceding three movements. What a treat to hear that kind of musicianship as part of this festival in this hall, and with those musicians, Daniel Rowland, Maya Bogdanovich, bookending the ensemble this evening, together with Farida Bakharova, Mikhail Zemtsov, Dana Zemtsov. Our 5 faculty artists returning to the stage for a much-deserved second bow. Brahms really knowing what he was doing as a chamber music composer. And of course, so intimately familiar he was with string instruments. Of course, he would write so naturally and perfectly for those instruments for which he was composing. But first, before we wrap up the evening, I thought, because that Brahms ended on a rather quiet and reflective note, let's take one final look back at last night's concert, to the extraordinary sonic world of Bartók, his sonata for 2 pianos and percussion, the beginning of that final fantastic movement. I'll see you outside in just 3 minutes.
And so with Bartók cheekily having the final say after Brahms, Another evening of chamber music magic comes to a close here at the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. Tonight's program perhaps encapsulating one of the defining characteristics of this festival better than any other, the willingness to place a brand new work alongside established masterpieces, trusting audiences to make their own connections across time, geography, and experience. Tomorrow, the festival reaches its halfway point. During the day, there will be more student ensemble concerts, masterclasses, and rehearsals. And tomorrow evening's faculty concert promises another fascinating musical journey, music by Amanda Harburg, Anton Arensky, and Jörg Wittmann. And so, whether you've been with us from the beginning of this year's festival or have just joined us tonight, thank you for sharing these performances with us. As always, we'd love to hear where you're watching from and what moments from this year's concert, this year's festival, have resonated with you the most strongly. And so until tomorrow evening, on behalf of everyone here at the Endler and throughout the Conserve, this is John Woodland wishing you a very good night. We'll see you tomorrow, Tuesday, for another day of chamber music magic.